Bulldogs struck silent. Georgia exploded for 41 points, left Mississippi State stunned 41-21. We're going to break it down, unfortunately.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Real quick, my name is Jaron Spor. I want to welcome you to Locked On Mississippi State because it's part of Locked On Podcast Network, and we are now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you guys so much. Also, I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We got a recap show for you today, so let's get into it. Landon, what did you think about the offensive performance?
I mean, not just offensively, but I think this was probably the worst game this team has played all year, just top to bottom. And we talked a lot about how Georgia's defense, they were a very good defense. There was nothing they did great. They didn't pressure the quarterback great. There weren't a ton of tackles for loss. They didn't turn the ball over a lot. Well, they kind of did all of those things pretty well on Saturday. So, yeah, I mean, they were pressuring Shapen or Kamario a lot of tackles for loss. They just really overwhelmed the offensive line, and it kind of just made the entire offense disjointed. And after that first drive where we're like, okay, this looks pretty good, it went south so fast.
Yeah, I mean, that first drive was really impressive for Mississippi State. It was a 14-play, 75-yard drive, and we don't usually see long drives from Mississippi State because it's usually a big play for a touchdown, but they played really well on that drive, and Shapen looked sharp. And it ended with Kamario Taylor running it in. But, yeah, I thought I wanted to bring up this because this was a really good example of when we have talked so many times about, hey, Lebby needs to know when to go fast, when to go slow, and all this stuff. It's hard to kind of show an actual example, but here would be my example here. So in the second quarter, this is when Georgia started finding its rhythm. So they scored 2 straight touchdowns. They go on a 4-play, 27-yard drive. That was after the Mississippi State offense fumbled. Touchdown. Then Mississippi State, 6 plays, 18 yards, wastes 2 minutes. Punt. Okay, not a big deal. You're still going fast. You're only down 10-7. Makes sense. Georgia then goes on a long 13-play, 90-yard drive, eats up 7 minutes and 2 seconds, scores a touchdown to go up 17-7. This next drive is one where now you should bring the speed back down.
Yeah.
The reason is your defense was just on the field for 7 minutes and 2 seconds. And of the last 10 minutes, they've been on the field for 8 minutes of it. You have to slow it down at this point. But no, that's not what they do. They go 7 plays, 42 yards, only eat up 2 minutes and 44 seconds, and turn it over on downs. And then what happens? 9 plays, 77 yards, touchdown Georgia. And this isn't to let the defense off the hook. They weren't very good, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But that is the example. That's the feel that Lebby needs to start getting is, hey, yes, we're still in this game. Defense needs a break. They're starting to unravel a little bit. Let's keep them off the field. Let's run some clock, and you can't do what they did. Going 7 plays, 42 yards, perfect. But you need to eat up 4-5 minutes of game time, and that's not at all what they did.
Yeah, in that situation, as a coach, your goal should be keep this ball as long as possible and get at least 1 first down. Because, I mean, in most situations, you get 1 first down, you're burning 2 minutes off the clock. I mean, most coaches, you're burning 2 minutes off the clock with 1 first down. They gained 40-some-odd yards and burned up slightly over 2 minutes. So the fast offense works so great when you're playing with the lead. But when you're having to come back and your defense is getting, pushed around, you have to throttle it down some. The offense is it's so disjointed. There were a couple good plays, but it would be like 1 play for 2 yards, incompletion or a negative play. Then, we busted 1 for 13. And there was no, after that first drive, nothing was sustained. It was all just plays strung that weren't even cohesive. It was just strung together, almost like, we hit a big one here, we hit a big one here, and then you'd lose 10 yards. It was one of the, honestly, the offense was pushed around There is no other way to really put it. They couldn't get anything going on the ground. 149 yards total. I mean, we've seen Booth and Fluff get that in a game by
Yeah.
themselves.
And Kamario led the team in rushing.
Yeah, with 12 carries for 53 yards. That's not – he had the most carries and the most yards. That's not really what you want. It was a rough game to watch. And we both said this defense, Georgia's defense, is going to present a real challenge for Mississippi State. They're going to have to really play well. And after that first drive, they just didn't.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring up another sequence to you because this just blew me away. So it was on that 7-play, 42 yards where they turned over on downs. It's 17-7 Georgia. Blake Shapen is finally, the first drive looked really sharp, really struggled after that. But this drive had some stuff going. So Blake Shapen started the drive out, 8-yard pass. Then Booth busts off a 10-yard run. Then Shapen finds Anthony Evans for 19 yards down to the Georgia 29. Georgia 28, sorry. Then they get up there. Zach Goodwin's false start. Now it's 2nd and 15 at the 33-yard line. No big deal. But what does Lebby do? He puts Kamario Taylor in the game. So Taylor rushes up the middle for 3 yards. Then he keeps Taylor in on 2nd and 12. He throws an incomplete pass. Then he puts Shapen back on the field, who completes a 7-yard pass, and it's 4th and 5. And they go for it instead of kicking the field goal, which they should have to make it 17-10. But they go for it, and it goes off of Fluff Bothwell's hands. Not sure if he would have gotten it anyways.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he would have to break at least 1, maybe 2 tackles, which, obviously he could. But it's almost like, and I don't want to be too harsh about it because it's very hard, and he's a very good offensive-minded offense coordinator. It's almost like he predetermines before the game, okay, on play 10, Kamario's going in. On play 12, Kamario. And it's not what the game is dictating. It's before the game I've dictated this. Because you didn't have any momentum at all outside of that first drive. You finally got it, and then you break up the momentum by putting in a different quarterback. And also on 1st and 15, what do you think Georgia thinks you're about to do?
I know.
They know you're going to run it with Kamario Taylor if he's in the game. Yeah. So now they're selling out to stop the run, and you only get 3 yards. I was blown away by that because you finally had momentum, and that's when Kamario comes in. And listen, Landon and I have talked about it. We're at the point where we think Kamario should just be the guy. With that being said, if you're going to go with Blake Shapen, you don't break up the momentum when you finally get it. If it was one of those things where he's just not getting momentum, and you throw Kamario in for a play or two, fine. But he finally had something going. Yeah.
And it's not like you brought him in on a 3rd and 1 to try to create another mismatch, a numbers game advantage. Brought him in on a 1st down.
Yeah.
And a 1st and
15 after a false start.
In a weird place on the field, too. It's not even like they were at the 10, like 10 lost 5, and you're down in the red zone where you need that extra runner to really put the math back in your favor. You needed a passer there. And as much as I like Kamario Taylor, you can see on his throws, he's just not there in terms of hitting every throw every time.
Yeah, he's not polished yet.
He's not quite there. But so to put him in that situation is crazy when you're still in this game. You get points here, you're in the game, and you pull him. Now if he makes the big play and then the momentum's really going for you. But the odds of that happening in that situation aren't good, especially when you went on tendency. If they broke tendency and did like a play action RPO kind of thing and maybe caught Georgia in a blitz, then great. But you didn't. You ran exactly what Kirby Smart thought you were going to run there.
Yeah, or if after the big play to Evans, you would have put him in on that play. I wouldn't have loved it because you kind of broke up momentum, but I would have understood, okay, 1st and 10, he's out there, give him a different look, see if something happens. And then, but after the false start, now it's like, okay, you shouldn't have him in the game. No. Which the weird thing was, it was Shapen that was in, false start happens, and Shapen then comes out. Like, it just did not make sense whatsoever.
It was so weird.
And I do want to talk about Kamario. I know we're almost out of time, but he comes in obviously for Blake Shapen late in the game. Shapen gets hurt. Lebby mentioned that, hey, Shapen wanted to come back in. Thought he was going to be limited, so that's why they didn't end up going with it. But Kamario Taylor finishes 6 of 10 for 87 yards. Blake Shapen was 10 of 15 for 86 yards. And then Kamario Taylor had 53 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, where Shapen had 15 yards, no touchdowns, and a fumble rushing the football. So Taylor had all 3 touchdowns. I tweeted this out. I believe, I believe in his last, what did I say? 5 drives, I believe I tweeted out. Kamario Taylor has scored a touchdown on 3 of them. Or I think, or maybe 4. It was 4 6. It might have been 4 out of 6.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back to that tweet. But nonetheless, it's not looking pretty in the passing game, but he's finishing drives for touchdowns.
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, he didn't look great. He looked like a true freshman out there, but he looked like a very good true freshman. And that's the kind of guy at this point you almost need to just get him reps. And I know Lebby trusts Shapen and also probably wants to do right by him. But, I mean, this injury is the perfect excuse to hold him out. It might be time to just turn that page, but.
And it was last 7 drives, he scored a touchdown on 4 of them.
I mean.
And also, if you want to go by total touches, Kamario Taylor, 140 yards on 22 touches, so 10 passing attempts, 12 rushes. Blake Shapen, 101 yards on 24 touches. So 2 more touches, but 39 less yards for Shapen.
That's not great. It's not what you need out of your starting quarterback.
No. And now, like you said, I will say this is the hard part, and we're going to dive way more into a quarterback battle on tomorrow's episode. But the hard part is you're 1 game away from the bowl game. Whereas, we said earlier before the year, like if you're 3 wins at this point in the year, just go with it and let him run it. He's already burned his red shirt. Just go. But when you're that close,
it's hard.
It's a tough decision. But all right, coming next, we got to talk about the defense because it was not pretty either. We'll talk about that next. All right, well, the holiday season is right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait because Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. I know when I moved up here, when I moved back home, Wayfair was my key that I went to. I got a sofa there. I got entertainment center there. I think even bought a kitchen table there, a desk. Like I bought a bunch of stuff to fill up my house when I moved back home. So they have everything you need, that's for sure. And if you've ever hosted family for the holidays, you know how much difference a few new touches can make, and Wayfair makes that easy. So don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. The sale ends on December 7th. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, Landon, talk to us about the defense. What was your thoughts?
That Georgia kind of did whatever they wanted to against this defense.
Yep.
And I mean, we talked about how talented individually this Georgia offense was, but we'd only seen flashes of them really clicking. They clicked for pretty much 4 quarters. And it doesn't help when you lose Jahron Manning to the targeting call and Isaac Smith goes out for the injury. When you lose, honestly,
and it didn't look good either. He wasn't putting weight on it.
No, that didn't look good. But I mean, when the defense is not looking, was struggling to that degree, and then you lose your 2 best players, at that moment, I knew we were kind of in for a longer day. I mean, I was already kind of white knuckling it to that point, but after that, you knew it was kind of going to be rough.
Yeah, because Jahron Manning was having himself a day when he went out of that game because he on the first drive for Georgia where they were held to a field goal, his closing speed on that little reverse that ended up being a TFL was insane. And then later in the game when they got the fumble, it was because Jahron Manning was the last one and was able to track I think it was Nate Frazier that busted the long run, and he was able to track him down and push him out of bounds. He was the last defense. He was able to get him out of bounds, and then you get the fumble inside the 5-yard line. So he was incredible. The thing is, 2 things about it. This defense, and we said this before the season, and it's really true for the whole team, they are not deep enough yet to be able to overcome a key loss.
Right.
there are the teams, and that's what separates the really good teams from teams like Mississippi State. That's an average team, I would say, is if they lost someone key, yeah, it hurts them, but it doesn't hurt them that much because they have another star like right behind them, or at least a really good player right behind them. Mississippi State really can't afford to do that. And then you lose 2 of them to your safety room. That was brutal. But the thing that I saw the most, and I talked about this in Friday's episode, I said, I think you're going to watch this game and you're going to think, man, this is a physically mismatched team. And that's exactly what I saw because Georgia ran it down their throat and didn't stop. Nate Frazier, 12 carries, 181 yards, 15.1 yards per carry, a touchdown. Georgia ended up running for 303 yards and 2 scores. The defensive line, this was the other thing that we talked about before the year. They're not great. They don't get a lot of push.
Yeah.
They don't get a lot of TFLs because of it. They don't get a lot of sacks. They rely so much on the linebackers and things like that to clean stuff up. And Georgia just wasn't having it. I mean, Mississippi State finished with 4 TFLs and no sacks.
Yeah, Georgia's offensive line just pushed them around. And you mentioned it, like they kind of rely on the linebackers to the point that this defense almost, in terms of front seven, it almost operates like those old school 3-4s, like where the linemen are just tasked with holding the offensive linemen at bay and just creating gaps for the linebackers to run through, which has its place, but it's starting to, in situations like this, it makes you wonder, like, is there not another dial you can turn? Like, where is that adjustment to actually kind of get some pressure? But I mean, you mentioned Georgia ran just all over them. And I mean, and Zachariah Branch, 8 catches for 68 yards. I mean, as good as Kelly Jones has been, and he made some plays. If he hadn't been making plays, this could have gotten much worse than it did. But
him, Jahron Manning, and Isaac Smith looked like the only ones that belonged on the field on offense and defense.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I will say this about the passing attack, because if you look at the numbers, it's 264 yards, 3 touchdowns for Gunnar Stockton.
They didn't have to.
He didn't really play that well, like the numbers would say. There was several times early in the game that he was just throwing jump balls, and early Mississippi State players were making plays on it. Kelly Jones would knock it down, or Jahron Manning would knock it down, or so on and so forth. Then Georgia started winning a lot of those.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like Mississippi State was out of position. They were in perfect position. It's just, it's a one-on-one, and someone's got to come. Someone's got to make a play on it. One of them was the big play to Elias Williams. That's 6'7" Elias Williams on 5'10" Jahron Manning, and they threw a jump ball, high ball. Nothing you can do about that, except for maybe don't have Jahron Manning on him. But other than that, there's nothing you can do about that because he was in perfect coverage. And I also felt like they started having success passing later in the game after the running game was just torching them. Because I honestly thought the secondary played pretty well, even though the numbers don't show that to the full extent.
Yeah, the secondary was not the problem. I mean, they didn't play great, but they played good enough. It was good. The front seven was getting pushed around to such a degree that you had to start bringing that next. Like Lanier pretty much had to live in the box, or you were just going to get, and then that opened up more one-on-ones down the field that they then took advantage of. I mean, it's classic football tactics. You use one to set up the other, and it worked. It really showed how as much progress as this defense has made, which it has made far more than either of us thought it could going into this season. There's still a long way to go. And a lot of it comes in 2 ways. You need depth, and you need a couple more high-end players.
Yeah.
And most of those need to be in the front seven. Because, Manning, Smith, and Kelly Jones, that's enough in the secondary. You need a linebacker or a defensive tackle or defensive end that can change a game up front to give them some help.
That back end is done really well. That back end is good enough to be on a very good defense. Like if this was if this was Texas's defense, but with Mississippi State's secondary, that's still a very good defense. Like that's how good the secondary is. They're at that level. They don't have the depth, like you mentioned. That's something that the team as a whole has to figure out. Because the depth, which is not expected in year 2. Like that's part of the building when you're doing a rebuild. First you got to get the first string, and then you got to get the depth. And so right now they're working on the first string and then the depth after that. But that was the biggest thing about this season is like we didn't think they would take the strides they have. But on the flip side, when you don't have depth, this is about the time that the wheels start coming off. And it's because you guys are just starting to get tired. They're starting to get the bumps and bruises. And instead of only having to play like 40 snaps, they're now having to play 60 or 70 because there's just no depth on the team. And they're already playing more snaps because their offense and how the offense operates. The defense has to play more snaps than most teams would anyways. But it's just we see that a lot with teams where they're really good or at least solid in the first string, but they're not very deep after that. And so then by week 8, 9, 10, 11, you start seeing all these holes. And then it makes people think, oh, well, maybe they weren't that good. No, they're good. They're at the point where they're just wearing out.
Yeah. And, like we talked about in the fourth quarter.
Another reason why you have to do the offense and start wasting some clock because your defense is losing it. They're starting to lose games for you because they don't have the depth and they're showing those signs.
Yeah, we've talked about how like in some games, like the Texas game, we see them in the fourth quarter run out of gas. You're in the fourth quarter of the season now. They're running out of gas. And then you drop a couple of key players. I mean, Manning, Smith, so the backup has to come in. They're a little more gassed. I mean, obviously we've been out missing for almost the whole season, but Will Whitson, I mean, if he was in there, that's another body you're rotating in. So the defense line will have a little bit more. The more guys you lose, the more people have to play more snaps, and that just becomes a problem when you're playing very good teams.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next, we will reveal our top dog of the week. Don't go anywhere.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I didn't even realize it until this segment that I hadn't had my light on this whole time. So the light is now on.
There you go.
Hey. It's been a long weekend.
It has been a very long
weekend. All right, Landon, who's your top dog of the week?
With this game, there's kind of one option. It's Kamario Taylor. He accounted for the 3 touchdowns, led the team in rushing with 53 yards and in passing with 87 yards, which not a great stat line, but I mean, hey, he did what he could do, scored all 3 touchdowns. He's looking pretty good out there.
Yeah, Kamario is really the only option to go with. But I do want to give someone some more other love because, Brennan had a pretty good game. Brennan Thompson did. But the guy I want to give props to, just because his day was cut short and we don't know exactly what kind of day he would have had, is Jahron Manning. Because he did finish with 6 tackles, 5 solos, which was second on this team behind Brylan Lanier, who only had 7 tackles. I say only, not like it's only not a lot. It's a lot, but I'm just saying he only beat him by 1, and Manning missed like half the game. So I just thought Manning was all over the place.
He was
great. Yeah, he was great in run defense. He was great in pass coverage. I had picked him as our midseason MVP, and there's been nothing at this point for me to say he doesn't deserve that for the full season. Now, there's still some games to be played, but, Isaac Smith is a really good player, and we've talked about him a lot, and it's crazy that I think Manning's played better than him this year, and Isaac's played well. I'm not saying he hasn't. I'm just saying I think Manning's been the better player this year, and that just shows how good he's been.
Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch either. Manning has been awesome. Like, he is – because he was one of the guys that were like, what are we getting with this guy?
Yeah.
Because, you come from the lower level, you're not really sure how they're going to hold up. And then turns out just a flat out baller. He flies around, comes with turnovers. He's been a great player. Hopefully he gets one more year. We never really know with how things are going to go. But no, he's been amazing. He's been great. Sucks when a guy is on a heater like he was and gets a day cut short, which it was targeting. Like, that hit was pretty much textbook targeting, but it just sucks when a guy's playing like that, his day gets cut short.
Yeah, it sucks. I guess I said Manning looked like the only one that belonged on the field. Taylor did too, I would say.
Yeah,
Now he looked like a freshman, but he looked like he at least wasn't overmatched being out there.
true.
My favorite part was after he airmailed the second down play, so it was 3rd and
Mhm.
12, and Shapen comes in. You can see him get mad that he's coming
Yeah.
out. I like that. I like to see that.
Yeah, I like it.
But obviously got his time to shine. Again, we'll get into it more in tomorrow's episode, but
Mhm.
I'm kind of just want to see him the rest of the way personally. But
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see what Lebby ends up doing. But all right, well, thanks for being Locked On Mississippi State, your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, I'm Jaron. Check out my work over at Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Post daily videos Monday through Friday. So check those out. And until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.